Mr Chair, just standing to support this bill and just wanting to talk about some of the aspects of the bill that we are supportive of and just provide a little bit of history as well, Mr Chair, with regards to why it was enforced in the first place, restrictions around our police officers being able to stand for counsel. And Mr Chair, it wasn't an easy decision at the time. At the time, a lot of this House would know, most of this House should know, that it was New Zealand First MP Ron Mark who was a vocal campaigner for these restrictions to be introduced. And initially the Labour government wasn't so supportive, but just I think before committee stages or at committee stages, the Labour government actually put forward an SOP ensuring that in the future police officers would not be able to also be counsellors, but that those already fulfilling the dual roles would be able to continue to do so. And we've heard a lot of discussion about the five who did continue in their roles as police officers and also counsellors. And we've heard the discussion around the fact that they have done so without any problems at all. There was a concern, and this was why the legislation was brought in to begin with, that there would be a conflict of interest for these police officers with regards to bylaws and actually having to enforce them. But I think from what we've seen with those five particular counsellors who are also police officers, we can see that they were very careful to declare any conflict of interest that arose over their time in council. And I think that serves as a good example of the fact that it can actually work. They can actually fulfil those two roles without any problems occurring. And we've seen particular examples, and one particular councillor that I know of that's done it very well, and that has been Alf Filipina, the Manukau City Councillor, a councillor and a police officer who is respected by the community, that has huge integrity, and he's done a fantastic job. And even prior to that actual piece of legislation being brought in 2008, he was very careful even prior to that to make sure that he did declare any conflict of interest when it came to bylaws and having to enforce them. So he had a good track record. We've seen with all five of them since the passing of that legislation that there was no problems, and that is a big part of why I think we are supporting this bill, because we've actually seen that they are actually able to conduct them in a professional themselves in a professional manner with regards to fulfilling those two roles. So, Mr Chair, that's part of the reason that we are supportive of this bill. Ideally, it would have been better in our mind that this wasn't rammed through in urgency. It still would have been good to get the views of the public, the views of the police, the views of anyone that had concerns or was particularly happy with regards to this bill being passed. But unfortunately, we won't have the opportunity to do that because of the fact that this bill is going through in urgency, Mr Chair. So Labour will be supporting this bill. This bill which will take off those restrictions that will allow them to stand in both positions, regardless of being a police officer. They will be able to stand as a counsellor, and it does seem only fair, given the examples that I discussed before, given the fact that there are other public servants that are provided with the opportunity to run with counsel despite their actual role as a public servant. So it does seem fair. And I want to take the time again, Mr Chair, to just acknowledge the police force and the outstanding work that they do. I think we all share that view across the House. And so not only those that fulfil their role as police officers well, they'll also be able to perform an outstanding role as a counsellor without these restrictions, hence why we are supportive of this bill. So there have been some significant barriers that the government will need to overcome in order to make this work without perception of conflict of interest, and that will be one of the challenges that the government will need to face. For example, a councillor helping to pass a bylaw and then going out and placing that bylaw in their role as a police officer could raise a conflict of interest with regards to those particular issues. Sorry, my nose is starting to run. I've just asked someone for tissues. So, Mr Chair, think I will end that call there, only because I have a cold and I need to go now. Thank you.